Today on BRStv, we're going to share the BRS 160's maintenance schedule. Hey guys, my name is Ryan. Welcome to another week of the BRS 160, where every week we do our best to help you guys, members of the reefing community, enjoy your tanks and find new ways to explore the hobby. We do that by following the setup and progression of this 160-gallon reef tank. This week we're going to share what our daily, weekly, monthly, and quarterly maintenance schedule looks like for the BRS 160. Done well, proper maintenance can be part of the fun of owning a tank rather than a chore. It can also be the difference between a nice tank and an epic tank, as well as a 2-year success or 10-year. Before we get too far into proper maintenance, it's different for each tank. In this case, we have an SPS dominant tank where we're looking for fast growth, ideal coloration, and low algae growth. We're willing to put a bit of extra effort in to achieve these goals to the best of our ability. Let's start with a daily task, which total about 5 to 10 minutes and consists of 4 things: a quick glance of the tank with cleaning as necessary, feed the fish, 1 quick test, and a couple things related to zeovit. This handful of minutes can be viewed as a chore, just part of the time you get to spend appreciating the tank as well as recognizing the fruit of your efforts. I start by cleaning the glass and sand if needed. The whole point of having a tank like this is it looks awesome in your home. If there's gunk growing in the sand, I just give it a quick blast with the turkey baster. The glass doesn't really need to be cleaned every day, but I like to give it a quick pass with the jumbo flipper just to make sure it's as crystal clear as possible and avoid buildup, which is harder to remove. The jumbo flipper is pretty huge and frankly ugly, but it does a job quick on the inside of the tank with the blade, and then the outside, the huge pad makes cleaning the tank quick. As long as I park it on the side of the tank, I don't notice it much. If you're looking for something a bit lower profile, the Tunes Care magnets are probably my favorite lower profile option. Nice thing about these bladed options is they make cleaning near the sand really easy without major concerns about scratching the glass. We covered feeding the fish last week, but as a quick review, we feed a mixture of frozen Canadian mysis, Hikari seaweed extreme pellets, and a bit of reef chili each day. Hit the feed mode on our power heads and use a baster to broadcast feed everything in the tank. The zeovit system requires a couple daily tasks, but this is probably the shortest of the daily maintenance steps. Just pump the zeovit reactor a dozen times, which is remarkably easy with the KZ magnetic reactor. Then dose the ZeoStart, which feeds the bacteria in the Zeo system. We also dose LPS aminos and coral vitalizer on a daily basis. This probably takes just a minute and a half. And the big question everyone asks is, can you miss a day? Well, it's best to try to do it every day. I skip weekends simply because I'm not at the office, and the system runs just fine. Last thing I do every single day I'm here without exception is test the alkalinity with the Hanna DKH checker. I have to say this is the most I've ever checked alkalinity before, but after doing it daily, I think I'd recommend it to everyone. Even more so if you own a checker and the test takes less than a minute. Testing alkalinity daily not only ensures that the water chemistry is correct, but also keeps you completely in tune with everything else you're doing in the tank and growth. For instance, we extended the lighting period, and guess what? The alkalinity went from stable to dropping a couple tenths of a point a day. This shouldn't come as a surprise because increasing the length of time the lights are on increases the amount of energy the zooxanthellae are providing, which should result in increased growth and additional alkalinity demand. This could also happen in reverse, of course. Maybe the lighting period is too strong or too long, and the coral is suffering from this. In this case, the corals would start to consume less alkalinity. Same could be said of coral foods and other related growth additives. For the most part, if a product claims to increase growth 10 to 20%, well, alkalinity consumption should loosely match that claim. End of story, nothing will keep you as closely in tune with your tank as testing alkalinity daily, particularly in a high consumption SPS tank. If you haven't tried testing alkalinity this frequently before, give it a shot because you might be surprised with how much value you get from it, particularly when you're doing things like tuning your lights for optimal growth and selecting the right nutritional products like amino acids and particulate foods. There's a real sense of satisfaction from seeing how all of this comes together and getting testing results that support these theories the hobby and community has come up with. So these 4 tasks, light cleaning, feeding, dosing, and testing, might sound like a lot, but seriously, it takes less than 10 minutes a day. And for me, it's just 10 minutes a day I get to spend with the tank and admire how the tank is evolving. The tank appreciates the effort and shows it. Weekly maintenance is pretty simple with a couple other tests, dosing a couple Zeo products, water changes, and emptying and cleaning the skimmer. Every Friday I test for calcium with the Red Sea test kit because it's easiest for me to read, and I adjust my dosing pumps if needed. Since calcium consumption is closely related to alkalinity, my daily alkalinity testing will probably tell me if there's a calcium issue prior to even testing for calcium. ZeoVit requires a dose of ZeoBack and ZeoFood once to twice a week. We dose them every Friday with our other weekly maintenance. This takes 30 seconds max. I also test for nutrient levels, nitrate with the NIOS test kit and phosphate with a HANA checker. In my opinion, they're respectively the best simply because they're the only ones I can confidently read at the low range. Because we're running Zeovid on this tank, the nutrient levels are consistently at or near zero. Testing for nutrients like this will allow you to ID an issue long before the tank actually begins to experience it. The skimmer cup normally fills once a week or so depending on what we fed that week, so we empty that as well as clean all the gunk out of the cup and make adjustments to the water level inside the skimmer or flow of water through the recirculating skimmer. For the most part, I don't have to hardly tune it ever, it just does its job. The last bit is the Zeovid system suggests 10% water changes every week, which are small, manageable, and easy to do. I will say that on other tanks I more commonly did 20 to 30% changes every 2 weeks, but I have to say a lot of people might find this 10% weekly to be a lot easier just because it's small and quick. For most people, a 10% change is just a couple 5-gallon buckets once a week. So that's all I do weekly. In between daily and weekly tasks, pretty much everything is covered. We do have a few monthly and quarterly tasks, starting with exchanging our carbon once a month, checking and refilling our calcium and alkalinity containers. I also like to use a pump or a baster to blow off the rocks and let the roller mat capture and remove all the tank debris. Generally speaking, each roll in the roller mat lasts us around a month and a half, so we replace that as needed as well. We also need to exchange the slide and the Senai probe to keep our ammonia and pH monitoring going. Outside of that, the only thing I do monthly is test for magnesium with the Saltwater test kit. Magnesium doesn't rise or fall as quickly as calcium, so testing monthly is adequate for most reefers. There are a few things we do quarterly as well, like calibrate probes including pH, ORP, salinity, and temperature. That last one a lot of people skip, but temperature is one of the major life support elements and very important to calibrate. If you've never calibrated your temp probe before, do it now because I commonly see them off by as much as 5 degrees. We also test our RODI system quarterly to make sure the pre-filters are not exhausted. Most people will check their TDS meter frequently or just notice the color changing DI is exhausted, but the sediment filters, carbon blocks, and membranes are harder to notice when they're exhausted. Testing your membrane looks like this. Let the system run for about 10 minutes to flush the water out of the canisters and membrane. After that, take a reading on the TDS coming out of your membrane. For most of you, this is also the in on your DI canister. Depending on your water quality, temperature, and pressure, you should be removing 96 to 99% of the TDS coming into the membrane. So if your home's natural TDS is 100, it should come out between 1 and 4. Membranes more often than not fail catastrophically, meaning it doesn't inch its way to 95 or 94% rejection, it suddenly falls to 80% or less. Testing the sediment filters, just checking the pressure gauge to make sure you're getting ample pressure to the membrane. If it's dropped significantly, you should replace the sediment filter. Depending on how dirty your water is, you might need to replace them as often as once a month, but most people will be in the 3 to 9 month range. Carbon blocks remove a lot of elements from the water the membrane can't, some of which the DI resin also has difficulty with, so it's also important to test them quarterly. Testing for free and total chlorine breakthrough is the best representation of how exhausted the carbon block is. It's as simple as running the system for 10 minutes and collecting some of the system's wastewater, which is water that's passed through the carbon blocks but not the membrane, and using one of these Lamont total and free chlorine test strips. Couple notes on this: if you're running a single block, don't be surprised if you see a small amount of chlorine breakthrough. Carbon blocks are not designed to be 100% efficient, just provide significant reduction and let the membrane and DI do the final polish. However, many reefers run 2 carbon blocks, with one block removing 85 to 95% and the second one providing the final polish. If your city disinfects with chloramines rather than chlorine, 2 carbon blocks are basically a necessity because the chloramines contain ammonia, very hard to remove with a single block, and most of the chloramines pass straight through the membrane. The DI will likely capture them, but it's probably the most expensive and labor-intensive method for treating for chloramines and leaves room for error. One last note on this: most reefers are not aware that the longer the system runs, the poorer the carbon block's performance will be. However, they effectively recharge during downtime. For instance, you'll get vastly different readings after 10 minutes than 10 hours of on time. However, if you let the carbon blocks rest for a day before producing more water, they'll effectively recharge much of their effectiveness. So you might want to check when you start the system as well as a few hours after it's been running. For those of you that would like to upgrade your 4-stage RODI system to 5 or 6 with 2 carbon blocks, there's some super easy kits on our site to do so. Somewhere around quarterly, it's also wise to disassemble your pumps and clean them in some type of acid like Thun citric acid or household white vinegar. That might seem like a lot, but it sure beats having the pump fail on you unexpectedly. I would certainly suggest doing it every 6 months or year at the absolute minimum. Outside of that, just shy of every quarter, we need to replace the zeovit media, and yearly I have a habit of stringing together 3 or 4 30% water changes just a few days apart to turn over and replace the aging water, which contains various contaminants that build up over the year, with a majority of freshly mixed seawater. For those of you that are curious, all the tanks here at BRS, including the BRS 160, uses HW salt mix. A couple other things I like to do yearly is throw my heaters in the trash and replace them. To some newer or lucky reefers, it probably seems like a waste of money. To experienced reefers who've been through a slew of heater failures, we all know it's not if, but a simple question of when a heater fails you. The goal can either be to catch it when the sensors, controllers, and alarms tell you that it's failed and hope that you're able to do something about it in time, or simply replace them before it breaks and threatens the whole tank. I'm obviously advocating the later. Another piece is changing out the T5 bulbs yearly. Once a year is a good rule of thumb, but if you own a power meter like the Senai or Apogee, you can take a measurement and make a more informed decision. These bulbs aren't cheap, corals aren't either, so getting a few more months out of the bulb or realizing the spectrum and intensity has changed before they impact the tank can go a long way to justifying the purchase of a $199 light sensor. Maintenance is one of those things that most reefers try and avoid. However, I think when it's done well, not only the results, but also the process can be rewarding and a fun component of owning the tank rather than a chore. Longer it stays fun, the more likely you'll be successful. Last week we asked you what your favorite fish food was, and combined frozen foods were a landslide win, with Canadian mysis eking out the overall win and the most popular. This week we're asking you what size and how often do you do your water changes, so hit that eye in the upper right hand corner and vote. If you learned anything new today, hit the thumbs up, and if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, because next week we start our mini series on controllers in the 160. It's going to be really interesting as we take a close look at some of the major options out there. See you next week with week 43 aquarium controllers.